If you enjoy reading books, smoking weed, and listening to podcasts about both, then listen to Literature with me, your host, Joanna, every other Sunday exclusively on the Journey into Comics Network at journeyintocomics.com. Let's sit back and get lit.
The following is a Journey into Comics Network production.
I'm a dude who likes brews. It's time for Brews with Dudes. Juicy.
Good evening, good afternoon, good night. I'm not sure when you're listening to this, but welcome. This is episode 18 of Brews with Dudes. I'm your host, Nick Maxon. I'm sitting here with a McKinley Minifield.
You got it.
There we go. Awesome. McKinley is from 450 North, and we are down at Jerilee's Pub with Casey Taylor, who owns Jerilee's. How are you doing, Casey?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. This is the second tap takeover we've done down here. The first one was Rheingeist. I'm super excited about this one. We kind of fell into the Rheingeist just because we like their beer, and they were somebody that Casey was already getting beer from. But 450 was more of a passion thing. We really liked 450. And after going down there enough times, we finally just can we talk to someone about getting more of your guys' beer in Lafayette? And here we are about a month later making it happen.
Yeah, luckily you happened to talk to the right guy that day.
Exactly, and McKinley is the right guy. So what do you do for 450 North?
So I'm a little bit of a jack of all trades. I wear a lot of hats. Primarily I guess on my business card, I am the sales rep for 450 North. So there's myself and one other rep. We cover the entire state of Indiana. We also do some distribution with our hard cider brand, which is called Gnarly Grove over in Ohio. And then we do our beer in Nashville, Tennessee as well. So me and one other dude kind of hang out in all those regions. But we also deal with everything from starting new accounts, servicing existing accounts. We deal with distributors, packaging, shipping, canning. You've seen me a lot of times on the release days that we do as well. So every other Friday, I'm stuck behind the bar at the brewery, doling out beers and hanging out with folks.
That's where I met you. Driving, what is it, about an hour and a half away?
Probably about an hour and a half, yeah.
We've been up there 4 or 5 times for special releases. Seen McKinley almost every single time. I think I've talked about it at least 3 or 4 times on the show.
Awesome.
That I initially got up there for the Corn Maze Beer Festival that they do. And after that, I was just totally hooked. So
how did you dig the Corn Maze Beer Festival?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was too hot. It was too hot, but it was, I couldn't begin to guess. There were 4 or 5, 6 different big areas with 4, 5, 6 different breweries in each place. Do you know the number of how many breweries were there?
Yeah.
How many?
So we had 50 breweries there this past year. Coming up in 2018, we're going to have 60 breweries. The first time this coming year, we're actually opening it up to out-of-state breweries as well. So we're going to have some very select breweries coming from Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, perhaps Illinois as well.
Awesome.
And so that'll increase that. We're expecting about 5,000 attendees this year. October 6th is the
a little
day
later
for
this
that.
time.
A little later. Yeah, who would have thunk it? The hottest day of the year happened to be the last weekend of September last year.
Right.
It was kind of miserable for everybody, but enough beers make it even more dehydrated, but you ended up having fun anyway, I hope.
It made up for it.
Yeah.
It definitely did. We've joked about doing a party bus this year, taking a whole crew of people down there for it.
That would be sweet.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a joke.
No, I think we're pretty serious.
Yeah, if we're getting up at 9 a.m. every other Friday to drive an hour and a half, I think the party bus is a good idea.
Yeah, I do
agree.
too.
I
do
agree.
too. Well, let's not waste any more time then. We've got a couple beers sitting in front of us. What do you guys want to start with? What do we got here?
Why so sourious?
Why so sourious? Is that how they pronounce it?
Why so sourous?
Sourous,
You got
cool.
it. So this is a classic Berliner Weiss beer. So this is a kettle sour. So it's fermented by putting a special bacteria into the wort pre-fermentation. So that's going to give it some of that tart characteristics that you get. This particular one has been infused with a raspberry puree as well, so you're going to get a slight hue of pinkness. It's super light and easy to drink. You're looking at about 4% ABV on this one. There are some hops in it, but only enough that we can legally call it beer. In order to call it beer, you've got to have hops in it. So there's a few pinches of hops in there just to make it a beer. This style of beer is really interesting. Back in the 15th century in Germany, this was the beer of the day. This is what all the kids were drinking back then. So there's kind of been a resurgence of the sours here lately, as you probably know of. This is a classic example of one of those. I
think the sours are a gateway beer. I think it's a way it's a way for people who aren't necessarily, they don't really like domestics. They want to try something with a little more flavor. And I think this is a perfect way to get you into something a little different.
Plus, it's gotten a lot more females drinking it as well. I think sometimes women get too caught up with what they deem beer, and I think when you start showing them some of these sours, we've had a lot of success having females starting to drink the sours.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't say that guys can't drink them, because I drink them.
I'm loving it. I was introduced to a lot of sours through Upland.
Of course,
Upland's got a really huge sour program. I really hadn't drank very many, and I went to. They've got two different locations right next to each other. One that's mainly for beer, and what do they call it? The Wood Shop.
The Wood Shop.
Is that it?
Absolutely.
And I got a flight of all sours, and it was when you're sitting there with 6 or 7 different ones, you're like, holy shit, they don't all taste like a warhead. You know?
Exactly, yeah.
You can really get some stuff
Sours
done.
can get really unique and really complex. So they're really cool because they can be super simple on your palate. Like this is a good example of that when you get a little tartness, a little touch of sweetness from the raspberry and a touch of raspberry flavor. It's straightforward, it's simple. But as you start getting into some bigger sours, lambics, and a few other styles, you can start getting into some really, really complex flavors and some really deep, flavors and profiles that can really kind of take you off an edge into this whole world of sours that gets very expensive, if you had to ask my wife.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually got my mind blown by lambics. I lived in Belgium for like 2 years of my life in 03 and 04. And it was the first time I'd ever had, like, flavored beer then. Yeah. So it was, like, the first time I went to a place to drink beer, and they're like, dude, we can get you a cherry beer, blackberry, raspberry. And, yeah, I was a huge fan, but it was a mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah.
Because that was, 13 years now? So there wasn't a lot of that going on in the States. I think Woodchuck was the only thing that was even remotely like that in 03 and 04. Right. But it was definitely cool to get a taste some of those lambics. There's a lambics.
I call them lambics. You call them lambics.
Lambic.
Sounds about right.
Lambamba ding dong. That one had like he said, a pinkish hue. It was sour, but it didn't blow my face off.
Super refreshing.
There's
easy
some
to drink.
there's some that hit your tongue and it like makes you pucker. Like, oh my goodness.
The press tart that we had, the Rheingeist one. It was like the initial taste. Everyone makes a face, and at first they were like, "Oh, I don't know if I like that," and it was a good aftertaste, and they drank more. But that initial taste was right in the face.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
That was definitely a lot easier.
We slammed right through that one. Let's not waste any time. What do we got next? I'm not gonna be able to tell this one just by looking at it.
Next, we're looking at Pixel Bomb for sure. So this is a double dry hops pale ale, and I guess the rest of these we'll talk a lot about hops and the hopping process. But the double dry hopping is a cool thing. What we do as a brewery with most of our beers is we're using an incredible amount of hops in all of these beers, but we're using them at a point during the brewing process where we're getting more of the flavors and aromas out of those instead of the bitterness. So for a pale ale, this is sitting around 30 IBUs, which is a little bit lower than you're typically going to get in an American pale, and 5.6% ABV. So you're going to pick up a lot of really nice kind of tropical flavors at the end of it, huge aromas, and low bitterness. So it's totally crushable. We're using Mandarina Bavera hops in this one, which is one of my all-time favorite hops. That hop is most notably tastes like tangerines. So you get a lot of that tangerine on the nose and then on the palate as well.
It's definitely very aromatic.
Indeed.
When I first started doing my homebrewing stuff, we dry hopped constantly just because we thought that was the way to go. And then for a very long time we got away from it. And then when I started getting into these New England styles, I was like, that's part of it.
Yeah.
The dry hopping is a major part of making it to where it's got that hoppiness without the bitterness.
Right. Yeah, and some of our beers we're going up to about 10 pounds, sometimes even a little more than 10 pounds per barrel of hops. That's all going in the dry hop, and then during the boil, we can be sometimes putting in a 10-barrel batch, maybe just a few ounces of hops.
Oh wow!
So in comparison,
wow.
And that's how we can keep these beers, in that 30 to 50 IBU range, while still using 10 pounds of hops per barrel.
Right. Damn. I love me some hops.
Yeah, I know.
I really love me some hops.
I don't know what this next one is, but I'm guessing it's Starburst.
Starburst it is.
Is it?
Oh yeah, that's Starburst.
I like the color.
Yes, this one's going to be a touch more caramel in color. This isn't a classic New England IPA. It's going to be not quite as hazy as a New England typically would be.
In fact, the other one was definitely a little hazier.
Yeah, and then when we go into the Crystal Vision, the fourth and final one of this little drink session, we'll see quite a bit more haze in that one. So that haze comes from using the utilization of oatmeal and corn, and then part of that is also some yeast and suspension that happens during the dry hopping process. So it's all there intentionally, of course. But Starburst is our standard house IPA. So actually, the Pixel Bomb, Starburst, and Crystal Vision will all be beers that are available year-round. Anybody can get these at any of their liquor stores, bars, or restaurants. If they're not there already, all they've got to do is ask. Our distributor can. We have statewide distribution with all of our products. So, of course, they can reach out to you because you can get a hold of me, and I'll make sure they get the beer that they want. So
you literally just have to ask. I just said, "Can you bring beer to Lafayette?" He said, "Yes, I can bring beer to Lafayette."
That's right.
And here we are. So.
And here we are. Yeah, absolutely.
So why did this one why is this like your standard, the house? Was there any reasoning or?
Yeah, so when we started out, I guess a little bit of background on the brewery. Our brewery is located on a very old, very large family farm. But the Simmons family, the guys that own the company, they've been farming it for 7 generations now. So when we started the brewery, we started out as just a little brew pub. We had a small little brewery system, and it just created enough beer for us to sell on site in our restaurants. We do brick oven pizza and some cool wings and other things like that in the restaurant. And so our beers they've always been very, very good, but also very, very basic. So we had an amber ale, and we had a honey kolsch, and we had a Belgian winter ale, things like that were excellent beers. But as we started growing in this market and busting into these New England styles and these beers that aren't just good, but they're noteworthy. They're good and unique and special, and people from all over the country are flocking to our doors right now to pick up some of these beers and just get the opportunity to taste it. So we wanted our basic lineup to kind of reflect what we're doing that people are so adamant about in picking up our beers. So that's why you have these beers more similar to that New England style, to kind of more align with where we are as a brewery right now.
I feel like you guys are really, really killing it with all the I don't even want to say IPAs, like double IPAs and triple IPAs, because like we touched on, we started coming up. I'm trying to think of the first beer that made us go, we need to drive up there. It was one of the Nugget releases.
Yeah, Nugget series has been huge for us for sure.
How many? You probably know the list better than I do. So you had the fruity nuggets.
The fruity nuggets, juicy nuggets, Citra nuggets. Then we've got the Rainbow series. We've had Citra and Simcoe Rainbows. We've had so many nuggets that I honestly have forgotten. Yeah. I've forgotten a good handful of them for sure.
There's the Cocoa. There's the Super Nugget Bros. That was like the Super Mario.
Yep, Super Nugget Brothers. Yep.
You just did the powdered nugs. I really like the powdered nuggets. Those ones were really good.
Yep.
That might have been it.
Powdered nuggets, yep.
It might have been powdered and gold. I think those were at the same time.
The gold was awesome.
The gold was really good
triple
too.
IPA. Well, yeah. Probably one of my favorites that we've ever done, the gold. And then a couple weeks ago we did the silver nuggets. And just yesterday we released the the Foggy Nuggets came out yesterday. And then also the Fresh Fruit, which is our milkshake series IPA. This is the pineapple fresh fruit that came out yesterday.
Yeah, and for some of our listeners that they don't get to see is the coolness of your guys' cans. Like, I was actually picking up Starburst today, and I was bringing in some of the beer from my house, and the dude giving my Starbucks was like, "What is that?" So I had like a beer conversation at Starbucks, and he just instantly saw the fresh fruit in some of those and just looked at the cans, and those immediately stand out.
Yeah, and the beer market is inundated with craft beer from all over the country right now, and and in varying degrees of goodness, I guess you could say. But part of the name of that game is when you're looking at a shelf with 300 or 3,000 beers on it, your eyes eat first. So if you've
Absolutely.
got a can that looks totally kick-ass, that may or may not be the one that they end up buying, but at least it's going to be given a second glance. And so that's part of it. So we work with Kodo Designs out of Indianapolis, who's kind of a marketing firm. Cody over there does all of our graphic work for us for everything that we do, and he's just amazing. So we've developed an excellent relationship with him. We can call him up anytime and give him just the most random of ideas, and within what seems like hours, he's got it. He's emailing us drafts to look at it, and he does such an amazing job of being able to take our weird, cocky, creative ideas and put them into a computer and make them look exactly like we wanted to. So. Our cans are definitely a representation of kind of who we are and what we do as a brewery. It's always funky and fresh.
Hell yeah, I totally agree. I remember, shit, we didn't even. I don't even know if I knew what the Super Nugget Bros was. Like I didn't know what kind of beer it was. I just saw it and I'm like, I gotta have that shit. I'm gonna feel dumb if I didn't drink the Mario beer that was in my home state, So
yeah, it didn't matter what it was cool enough that you had to buy it. Right?
And then coincidentally, I liked it.
That's right.
So.
The dank lollipop, same thing. When I open the cooler and I start looking, I'm like, that's going in my case.
Yeah,
that just looks too cool not to try.
I've got 2 beer fridges, believe it or not, and one of them is absolutely covered front to back all over with specifically 450 North beer stickers.
Nice.
Which it's like, my friends aren't bringing this stuff over and drinking it. It's all mine. So you look at it and you're like, Nick, you spent a lot of money on 450 beer. I'm like, yes.
Money well spent, though.
Yes.
Every time I walk out of there, I'm happy.
I don't regret it any
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Yeah, we love to see smiles on people's faces. They've got to smile through the struggle of carrying out multiple cases at the same time. But they're always smiling. They're always smiling, and we love it.
You guys had on one of your beers the other day. You had a limit of, I think it was like 9 cases, and I was trying to imagine myself. I'm like, could I carry 9 cases at once?
So that one was 9. It was 9 4-packs.
Oh, 9
So,
4-packs.
Yeah, If we
Okay.
had 9 case limits, boy, we'd run out
That'd be
really
dumb.
fast.
That's the saddest part. We've told the horror stories where it's like we leave Lafayette, we drive an hour and a half, and we stand in a line for 45 minutes because these crazy fuckers are already in line out in the cold.
Yeah,
one time we were out, it was like 20-degree weather.
Yeah, the Super Nugget Brothers release, I think, was the one it was just bitter cold, and that was one of our biggest releases. And we had a line for almost 2 hours before we opened.
Oh my god!
So yesterday was a cool day. So we did we sold a couple hundred cases out the door, which is totally awesome. It's rad that people are getting into it. They're coming from hours and hours away. 9:30 in the morning was when people started lining up. And we didn't open the doors until 11 to start selling beer. So that dude was cool. Another thing that you guys can look forward to as you come in for some of these releases, we're trying to make it more. Like what we've noticed happening is people are hanging out in line. They start talking beer with the guy next to them. All of a sudden, the next time they come back, one guy's bringing a beer to trade with the other guy. And so organically this is happening. And so what we're going to start doing on the next release, which is March 5th or March 6th, something like that, 2 weeks from yesterday, which, out in radio world, nobody has any idea what day this is. But nevertheless,
I think it's March 2nd.
This is going to come out next Saturday.
Right.
So when you're listening to this, we will be talking about a week from today.
The first Friday in March.
Sure. So sounds good. And so what we're going to do is we're going to encourage more of that trading. So we've got a prolific beer trader who's going to be coming down, setting up a tent and a table in our parking lot, and just bringing tons of beer to talk about and to sample and to try. So we just want to build that beer community. We realize and respect that it's not our beer that's running this world. We don't want that to happen. So we just want to be a part of that community where everybody can come in, share what they love, and love what they share, and we can all kind of get down and have a beer together. So that's the goal.
That's one of the cool things. I know that the times that I've gone down is when I step over after I get my case of beer and order a draft, almost somebody always is standing there and is like, oh man, if you like that beer, you should try this beer.
Exactly.
Or how you had that.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I go there, people are very comfortable talking about the beers. and giving you their suggestions, and it really is a cool environment. I mean, people could look at each other and be like, "Do you need all that beer?" Because I know you guys are running a little lean. Because I know
then you look at me and it's like, "Yes, we do."
Yeah, because I know during the cookies and cream, I was like the second to next person that didn't get it. So I mean, I was kind of mean mugging some people, but they were all nice to me, and eventually they shared. So I got some.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think your guys' Facebook page was the first one that I would look at, and when you would post up these releases, you would immediately see people saying, like, looking for this, willing to trade this.
Right.
And it's like, I've never seen something like that, where it's like, it's trading cards. It's like people are like, I am looking for this beer. Anybody want to trade this beer? And I love it. I've got friends that live all over the country. Everyone knows I book shows. So I've got bands that are touring, and they'll be coming from all corners of the country, and they know I love beer, so they bring me beer that I could not have possibly gotten anywhere else. Yeah. So I love it. It's a really awesome community. I am having a hard time not drinking this beer sitting in front of me.
Well, better get on it.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it so I can think about it while I'm drinking it. What do we got?
Crystal Vision.
Yep, this is Crystal Vision. So this is, again, one of our standard core beers. This is a double IPA. Again, I don't think we're technically calling it New England, though it is definitely along the lines of that style.
Yes.
So it's an 8% double IPA. There is a touch of lactose in it to give it a little bit of kind of creaminess and smoothness that's going to roll through your palate there. 45 IBUs, so super low in the bitterness category for a big double IPA. I think one of my favorite beers out of the mix. I love the big heavy IPAs. But this one it's for an 8%er, it's just totally crushable, and I love that about it. There's a touch of oatmeal and wheat in there, along with the lactose, again to add some body, add a little bit of haziness to it, and make it what it is.
I love those beers that are just total monsters, but when you drink it, you can't tell.
Yep.
What was I just today? I was Foggy Geezer.
Oh yeah.
War Pigs, McKellar.
Yep.
I'm drinking it, and I'd never seen the IBUs, but it's on the beer list I'm looking at. I'm like, holy shit, what do you mean this guy's 8-9%?
Well, that's right. This one's almost an unfair 8%.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You can just go right through it, and you're like, man, that's really 8%, and it's like that went a lot faster than I thought it was going to.
That's right, yeah. Well, I was on my way up here, and I had 3 of them in the back seat, and I'm like, what? Well, how do I drink those from Indianapolis to? I haven't even gotten out of Indianapolis yet. No, I'm just kidding. It didn't really happen, but it is one of those beers though that it just goes down so smooth that you really gotta watch it if you plan on walking out the door later.
Well, I think that's one of the great things that I've noticed about your guys' beer, that for people that aren't necessarily into IPAs or that kind of heavy taste, that some people aren't willing to try it. And when I've been like, hey, man, you really should not judge before you taste it, the people that I've allowed to sample or try the beer, I think they've all been shocked.
Yeah,
that they've been smooth.
That's definitely one thing about the New England IPA. So any of you guys out there that are just totally IPA haters, I get it. Almost all of us started out as IPA haters, even those of us that love them the most.
It's too much bitterness and stuff.
Yeah, we all struggled at first. It's just like drinking coffee or riding a bike or anything else that you've ever done. It's an acquired thing. It takes a little bit of patience. But starting out with some of these New Englands, when you remove that bitterness, you really get to experience the hop for what it is. So hops originally went into beer as a preservative. So they're just such a cool plant, and they have so many amazing flavor and aroma profiles. And the New England style is all about showcasing that. And in order to showcase that, you have to get rid of the bitterness. It's this big 100 IBU, 150 IBU beers. They just wreck your palate. And I love those beers. I love big bitter IPAs. I love those. But there comes a time when that bitterness takes away from the flavors of the hops. So if you want to really taste a hop and experience what they can do as far as flavor and aroma, pick up a New England IPA and don't be scared of it, because it's definitely worth your try, and it's not going to hurt you.
It's definitely my newest PSA when I'm trying to get people to drink beer. I love the New England styles for the fact that it's not going to blow your face off, and we call them palate wreckers. It's like you can drink one and then you're done tasting the beer because you've just had all that bitterness in your mouth. It's hard to get over it. So yeah, I've been all about those New England styles. You guys are killing it with them.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I believe we were the first brewery in the state to do a statewide distribution on a New England style IPA. So we've been doing it. We've been in this IPA game for just a little over a year now. It's really pretty new to us, but it's also pretty new to the nation. I mean, this hasn't been a style that's gotten much notoriety. So we're out there kind of hopefully blazing a little bit of a trail and turning some folks on to a different way to drink.
Hell yeah, a little bit of innovation. Well, shit, we slammed through these drinks, and we ain't got no more to sample, so I think it's about time for me to go get myself a pint.
I was going to say we should go slam through some more, then.
Let's do
Get
that.
off these damn microphones.
I think we're going to go ahead, and you're already going to have seen it by now, but I think we're going to live stream a little bit of the beer school, the rest of the night we've got going on down here at Jerilee's. So thank you, McKinley, for making the drive, because he came down here from where the hell he was. He's blazing trails all over the Midwest. I don't even know where he's been.
Yeah, I don't either.
And thanks again to Casey for everything. This is the second time we've been down here doing tap takeovers. He's been doing the metal shows that I booked for a long time too. So Casey and I are really bringing it in on. We're going to have some fun. This is just the beginning. We're about to have a lot more fun. So thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for listening. Make sure you check out the Journey into Comics Network, our host site. And we will see you next week on Brews with Dudes.
Cheers.